This may be a sign of the apocalypse, because a guy that doesn't like twist shifters or drop bars is on a bike that's equipped with both. This is the Kent Eagle Ridge, an adventure gravel bike, Walmart style. Gravel bikes are a segment I normally don't look at, but I have had some fun on my Aventon Kijote, so I thought I would see what was available at Walmart if I wanted a gravel bike but was on a tight budget. Normally I would balk at a bike with a Quill Stem for $179, but here, considering the drop bars, a Quill Stem will give some height flexibility without the need for a budget shopper to buy a new stem if they want to change things. The twist shifters on drop bars though, that's just odd. I guess the only bright spot is they chose Shimano RevoShift twist shifters instead of something more low end. Think about that for a second, because the brake levers are about 10 inches from the shifters and it just seems like that would be problematic. But I'm not going to harp on it, at least until I try it, so let's move on. Looking at the head tube, I see a metal Kent badge. Now I like metal badges, so this gets a thumbs up. The fork is rigid, it's made of steel, and it has Eagle Ridge graphics. The wheels though, they're alloy, Vitesse branded, and they share components with some of the other bikes in this class. An example of this is that you'll see the rim brake channels even though this bike's equipped with disc brakes. The tires are 700 by 40C, which is right in that gravel bike tire size, but the tread on those tires doesn't look very gravel bikey, but we'll see. Here are the disc brakes. They're Perk brand, and I can't remember which bike it was, but I've reviewed one with these. Maybe someone can comment and let me know, but I don't recall any issues, so hopefully these are going to be the same. The frame on the Eagle Ridge is steel, and it has a silver matte metallic finish. And I like the color, but the graphics are stickers, and you put matte stickers on a matte finish, and around the edges it can look kind of cheap. Fortunately, every graphic is a sticker, so they can be peeled off and kind of stealth out the bike. And being that adventure cycling can put you out in the middle of nowhere, I was happy to see that there are two sets of mounts on the seat tube and on the down tube, so you can run two water bottles or a water bottle and a pump, whatever. Drivetrain wise, this is all very familiar for the price range. The same pedals, roughly the same crank arms, and the same riveted 3x chain rings, though there is a Shimano branded front derailleur. So Shimano up front, and as the chainstay stickers allude, Shimano at the rear as well, but sadly this is a Shimano flat face. At this price I really expect to see a better Tourney derailleur here, but flat face it is, and this one came out of the box pressed into the spokes, and I'll cover that more in a bit. And it's all Shimano, except the freewheel. That's a Kazuno, a 14 to 28 tooth. There was also some damage to the saddle. Here you can see that it leans a bit off to the right, and I'm going to try it like this for the review, but it will need to be replaced. Gravel bike, mountain bike, whatever bike, if it's sold at Walmart, odds are it's going to have a kickstand. And that's what makes up the Kent Eagle Ridge. For the ride, I decided I would visit the same gravel roads that I rode with the Aventon Kijote. Let me preface all this by saying I try to approach each bike with an unbiased look, but I'll have to admit that I wasn't expecting much from this bike. So it's kind of like seeing a bad movie, where you think it's going to be bad, then you see it and it's not so bad. There are a few issues, and I'll get to those in a moment, but this is a smoother ride than I was expecting. Even the tires are doing decently well. I mean, they get a little shaky when you get on the looser sections with the larger rocks, but for the most part, they're doing quite well on gravel. I even visited the old Cemetery Road, another place that took the Kijote, and on the flat spots it's all good. But as soon as I started hitting the rutty spots, especially when pedaling uphill, that bent derailleur started affecting things and was popping between gears. And that starts to rob some of the fun, but that's not really the bike's fault because that's shipping damage. By the way, I said cemetery and I wasn't kidding. Cemetery. I even rode some areas that I didn't take the Kijote, like some unexplored side roads where, rear derailleur aside, the bike handles quite well. Surprisingly smooth control, especially considering it has less than ideal components, like those shifters. I think that speaks to geometry, and geometry on a cheaper bike, you kind of get what you get. And this isn't spectacular by any stretch, but it is good enough to be nimble and not at all awkward, especially on random unknown or uneven terrain, like this unknown burn pile. Gosh knows what they're burning here. I mean, this is out in the county in an area I call Deliverance, and it's all fun until someone starts playing a banjo. On the streets, where that messed up derailleur isn't such an issue, the rolling resistance is also not what I would have expected. I mean, it's easy to get up to speed and to hold it. And it's not fast. This is about as fast as it goes, but it's also not as tiring as some other 3x7 14 to 28 tooth setups I've ridden. Now the drop bar twist shifter combo, I'll admit it is more usable than I expected, but on gravel it does get awkward, having to reach back to shift. This hasn't caused any problems for me thus far, but being 10 inches away from the brakes, if you're working the shifter and you're on gravel, that just seems like a bad idea. But overall on gravel it's usable, and on paved streets it's easier than some other similar 3x7 setups, especially ones under $200 that I've previously ridden and available at Walmart. Now you'll notice I stick with acceptable or okay, because these twist shifters on a drop bar bike. I mean, who came up with that idea? But I'm uncomfortable with drop bars in general, so that needs to be factored in. And also, I want to mention, this bike is $179 at Walmart, but I didn't purchase it from Walmart. Kent sent me this as a review unit. I've also mentioned multiple times about the shipping damage, and here's what I'm talking about. The derailleur was pressed in the spokes, and I had to bend it back, and that put stress on the rivet right at the mount joint, so there's lots of side-to-side free play. And that causes problems on rutty gravel roads. So after riding it, I'm looking at the Eagle Ridge, and I'm seeing a few plus sides, like the foam grip tape. It's comfortable even without gloves. There's also some creative, like to get twist shifters mounted to a drop bar setup. I had to put spacers bolted to the bars between the shifters and the stem, something I don't think I've ever seen before. There's some okay, like the Perk mechanical disc brakes. These have worked well for me, and cheap brakes are kind of hit or miss, but these are okay. Drivetrain wise, for a 3x7 14-28, this is okay, though I think a lot of that comes from a component I'll be talking about in a second. Surprisingly, I didn't notice the lean, but I'm sure it would be bad on the back over time. I also like the overall look of the bike and the color scheme, and it's going to look even better when I take all those stickers off. And the biggest surprise is those tires, because it feels like they have a low rolling resistance on streets and they work acceptably well on gravel. But on this bike there was one major not okay, and that's aside from the flat face derailleur or the shifter and the drop bar combo. And that's the welds, because they look horrible. I don't think there's a problem structurally, but aesthetically, there's no reason a bike that's $179 should have welds that look this bad. I've got to think, being a steel frame bike, if this was set outside, this is where rust would quickly set up. That's a look at some of the good and the bad of the Kent Eagle Ridge. I hope this info helped you out if you're shopping for this bike, or if you're just curious, I hope you found it entertaining. For me, I think the Eagle Ridge was overall better than I expected, because I was able to have some fun on it, but I would caution any potential buyers to check the welds and also check for shipping damage, because there wasn't much padding in the box. And now's the time I give a patron shout out, and today's goes to Grant W. Thanks, Grant, I really appreciate you. And if you're new here, be sure you're subscribed and that you have the notification bell active. Also, you can join me on Twitter. I have a link down in the description. And I'm adding a link to Shimano Mega Range freewheel. That makes bikes like this with a 14-28 tooth freewheel even better. In my opinion, the Mega Range should be factory equipment. Thanks to everyone for watching, and have a great day.